Hi, I'm Kelly from Kelly Jones Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute ring. I've put a list of everything you'll need in the description below. So let's get to it. To make this ring you'll need 0.8mm wire, which is 20 gauge. I've cut 3 lengths at 7 inches, which is 18 centimetres. I've got 0.315mm weaving wire, which is 28 gauge. Wound mine onto a bobbin. This is a Bobeeze bobbin by Beadsmith. It just helps with working with a longer length so you don't have it flailing about. You can cut shorter lengths as you go if you prefer. So today we're going to be using a little jump ring. So mine is 10mm outside measurement, and I will be using a selection of small beads. I'll write on the screen which ones I actually use. Little tub from Shein, love it. Tools, I've got my pliers, round nose pliers, wire cutters and nylon pliers. I just like having these handy for straightening the wires, compressing the weaves, flattening the weaves. So it's just nice to have them handy. But if you don't have nylon pliers, don't worry, because it's not essential. And let's get started. And you're going to need a ring mandrel or something round to wrap your wire around to get the ring to the size that you want. So to start with, let's work out how long our weave has got to be for the different size rings that we're going to be making. So if you take your mandrel and work out what size you want it to be. So this is like an estimate. We're going to work out roughly what we want this to be, then we can change it later. So if you don't know the exact size, or if you're working with something that isn't a mandrel, we're just trying to guess it for now, so you can guess it later if you want to. So what I'm going to aim for a size 5. It doesn't always work out that way. So if I measure around that, I've got about 5 centimetres on there. And so now I know my jump ring is 1 centimetre. So you take the 1 off the 5. So I'm going to do 4 centimetres of weave, and then I'll wrap it around the mandrel and see how much extra weave I need to do. Does that make sense? So if yours is much bigger than mine, you'll obviously have to do more weave. If you're making a really big ring, you might want to use a slightly larger jump ring just to keep it all in proportion. If you look at the size of your finger to your jump ring, you don't want an oversized jump ring on a small finger, because the bands on the side will be sticking out rather than joining to the jump ring. Does that make sense? So sort of work it out in proportion to your finger to the size of the ring that you're making. And if you can go for a bigger jump ring, then you've obviously got more space to play with as we're adding all these beads and everything. So I wouldn't necessarily go smaller. I wouldn't go smaller than this one. To work out where we're going to start, I'm absolutely no good with inches. So my wires are 18 centimetres. So find the middle of your wires. So that would be at 9 there. And then because I want my weave to be 4 centimetres, I'm going to jump back 2, and that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to start at 7 centimetres. So if my wires are 7 inches, I mean, you really need to work this out for the size of your ring, really. Halfway would be 3.5. And my 4 centimetres is about 1.5 inches. So I would start roughly around the 2-inch mark. So find your starting point, take your weaving wire, we'll attach with 3 wraps around the bottom wire. And we'll go 2 wraps around the bottom wire, come up between those 2 wires, and 2 wraps around the top wire. And that's our weave. So repeat that for the length that you've worked out that you need your weave to be. And can I take a moment just to say, please mention me when sharing your finished work online. Please don't share images of the back or in progress, as it gives all my little design secrets away. And thanks to everybody who does, I really appreciate it, and I love seeing all your finished work on Facebook and Instagram. And please subscribe if you haven't already, come on, it's free. Hit that subscribe button and help me out. So do your weave and then check that your weave hasn't moved, because mine slid along. I've got 7 at the beginning, then I've got 4 centimeters for my weave. New tutorials in my Etsy shop. This is a set of 3 for beginners, and it's an instant download, so you download it instantly and you can start crafting straight away. So I've done the weave that I worked out. I've done the 4 centimeters that I needed to do. Now when you're adding the jump ring on the next part, it drastically reduces the size of your ring, as I've just learned. So I started again. So do extra weave. So I'm making all the mistakes so you don't have to. Do extra weave. So we want at least another ½ centimetre of weave. So just do an extra bit, just so it gives a bit with the size once we've added the ring. Do an extra 5mm of weave. So I've now got 4½. Woo? Yeah, 4½ centimetres of that weave. Press it all together to keep it all nice and tidy. I'll cut the weaving wire off at both ends because this next bit is a bit fiddly and we don't want this wire flailing about. Finish with 3 wraps around one of the wires. Cut that wire. Press down all your little cut ends. And we'll attach that jump ring. I make my jump rings using 1.5mm wire, which is 14 gauge. And to get it to go together nice and tight there, when you're pushing it together, I'll show you. Hold on a minute. So when you're wiggling it to get it together, never pull it apart, always twist it. If you bend it together so it's like it's too far, so you've gone together too much so they won't join, and then gently pull it together, they end up together really nice and tight. Do you know what I mean? So they're really close next to each other, and then when you've got it how you want it, rub a nail file across to get any sharp bits off that join. And when you're making your jump rings, use your flush end of your cutters. So I always use old cutters. So cut your wire and then turn it around to cut the other side of the other one. Make sure your weave is all really pressed together. And we're going to bend them over your pliers because it's easier than going over the jump ring. So we're taking these wires over to the right. So we go over to the right like that. Give them a squeeze so they're nice, and try and keep your weave nice and straight. And then you can pop your wire, pop your jump ring over your wires. Just gives it a bit more. It's so hard to bend them over that jump ring. And then bring the wire out to the right. Take the outer wire, and we're going to take that wire around the jump ring again, so they're definitely holding it on in place there. So all the wires are going out to the right, and they're pretty central on the weave. I just thought if we join the one end on while it's straight, it just makes it a bit easier because it is ever so fiddly. So we need to wrap that around our mandrel now. So making sure your wires are bending over on the inside. Bring your weave around. You really need to press your weave together. Mine keeps sliding. So we're going to bring it around. And then the jump ring needs to be pretty central. And these wires are going to bend over. So if those wires go out, holding it like this, if those wires go out to the left, these wires need to go through and out to the right. See my join there? As I'm pushing my wires through, I may pull it apart. So I'm just going to bring it around to the side, so I don't completely destroy my jump ring trying to add my wires. So make sure your weave is all pressed together. And we're going to take these wires through. You can take them one at a time, might be easier. Through the jump ring and out to the right. Try and hold your weave so you don't misshape it too much. But just take your time. Like I say, you can take one wire at a time if you want to. We're just going to carefully pull those wires through and out to the right. Jump ring has turned around a little bit, so take your time and adjust your wires. The end one's got to go around again, but these two just need to come out to the right. As I straighten them as well, it'll pull them through a bit better. Push it onto your mandrel to see how you're doing. It might be a bit of a force to push it on there. Try and get it nice and straight the best you can. And this wire I'm going to take around again so that it grips onto that jump ring there. We definitely needed that extra ½ centimetre of weave. The one I made earlier would not go on the mandrel whatsoever. Right, so now for the fun bit. So looking at it from this angle, I'm going to take this higher wire, the wire that's right at the top, and I'm going to scoop it over, and I'm going to bring it across the front there to the left. Turn it around. Everything we're going to do to one side, we're going to do to the other, so we've got this flow of symmetry going on. That's the plan. Take your higher wire, the one right at the top, and again we're going to scoop him over and across the front, come in that side of the weave and across and out to the side. We need to match these up, really. I'm going to pull that down a little bit. So I've added 2 little beads. So mine are like 2mm beads. I like little seed beads. When you're buying small beads online, I get all mine off Etsy. Check the size of the hole so you can fit your wire through it. So pull your wire forward a little bit and slide the bead up to the top, and then push your wire back down. So we've got our wires going out like that. holding that wire tightly in place. I'm going to take it around and finish it off. To make it easier, I'm going to cut it off and I'm going to bend it around. You just don't want to misshape it. So it goes around and it joins and it kind of hides behind the original wire so we can't see the end of it. And I'm going to do the same with the other wire. Be careful of your join that you don't pull your jump ring apart. So the next wire is going to come around the same, but it has to sit inside of this scoop. So we need a smaller scoop. I always say scoop, I presume you know what I mean, like a little bend. I always see a bend as like a bend, and a scoop is more like a scoop. So we scooped him out to the left, and then take the next one, turn it around, take the next higher wire, scoop him around, do it in a smaller scoop than the first one. So I want him to meet the wire, and then I want him to come away from the wire at the end. So we scoop around smaller, we meet the wire, and then we come away from the wire a little bit. Finish those two wires off the same, clip them off and wrap them around and make sure that they join at the back of that wire so you can't see the join. I decided to add some little beads before you wrap your wire over. I've added a little bead onto those two wires. Push it along and push the wire against the weave so it holds it in place there. Cute little bead, and then I'm going to finish it around the jump ring. So push the beads up and then push the wires down. Push the bead up into the weave and then push the wire down so it holds the beads there in place. And then with this last wire, I'm going to really push it in. So it goes around in a tiny little scoop. We go in between the wires there and around again into a tiny scoop, back in. Then holding your side here, we're going to lift it forward. We're going to post it through. So I'm still holding that front shape in place, trying not to misshape it too much. And I'm taking it around the jump ring. I'm going to do the same with the other one. So So I'm going to really push it in at the base, bring it around over in a tiny scoop there, coming down between the two wires, and then bend it over in another scoop to the other side. And then pull it forward and take the end around the jump ring, and I'm really holding on to the lower scoop. It's really pressing into my finger quite a lot, so I don't lose that wire shape, and I'll pull that round. I'm going to finish off those wires. I'm not going to finish it off at the back there because I think this one needs to hold on a bit stronger. I'm going to hold in that still. I'm going to take it around. Oh, you'll have tough fingers after this one. Cut that off as it comes around the other side so you haven't got a sharp bit. And make sure it's all nice and tight. And cut it off right up inside there. Do that with this side too. So get it back on the mandrel. It may need a bit of persuading. Straighten it all up. I absolutely love copper. That's going to be lovely when it's oxidised. I'll run and oxidise mine and I'll show you. Can you see how the shape changed? How it was awkward to guess the shape of the band because it reached to the top rather than being in a circle. So there we have it, finished. I've oxidised mine. If you'd like help oxidising yours, I've done videos on oxidising and aftercare. I'll put links in the description below. Well, I hope you found this pattern interesting, and I hope you found this tutorial easy to follow. And please subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now. Bye.